Back. This is the third part of our discussion, and I was talking about a comparison of the Artemis versus the Apollo program. Well, if you lost the first two episodes, get back on our YouTube channel or on our Spotify channel or on our website at www.spaceinfo.club for the previous articles and podcast episodes where we talked about the selection by NASA of instruments for the Artemis Lunar Terrain Vehicle, scientific instrumentation, very particular and harsh condition for the landing on the moon. So we talked about science, we talked about operations, and now we are going to make a comparison. We keep on with the comparison we started in the part 2 of this talk, and we're going to talk about the landing strategy we mentioned in the last time, and we're going to compare the data-driven strategy for the selection of the landing site using satellite imagery, terrain modeling, and also ice detection to be avoided for the contamination reasons we mentioned last time during landing. Well, science and habitability over the long term is going to be the priority now that we are going to get back on the moon, to stay there, to live there, to work there, while the selection by manually, basically using the telescopes based on Earth, and the very early probe data by the lunar orbiter in the 60s and the 17 in the Apollo era. Their safety and getting astronauts back safe on Earth were the priority. Science was, I would say, only, but very understandably, a second thing in the whole picture. For sure, you can imagine you're going to explore something which is still unknown nowadays. Well, think about how unknown, the grade of the unknown it could be 60 years ago. Well, this is it. Well, now let's talk about, we mentioned, the lunar transit vehicles, so the rovers, commonly called. Nowadays, in the close future with the Artemis program, probably they're going to have something like 15 kilometers for extravehicular activities, and maybe more with, the evolution of the second, third, fourth generation of the power sources for the navigation and for the power supply of the rovers. This is something that you could be surprised of, but in the past they had something like double the range for the rovers for Apollo 15, 17, and 16, but they totally human driven without automation and assistance during driving. Also, the communication now for telemetry, so vital parameters, both for the humans of the astronauts and also for the rovers and the vehicles, are basically real time. You also have live video and also high bandwidth for scientific communication in situ or on the spot, and also almost instantaneous communication from the moon back to Earth. So it's a huge help in operation, while voice and also, you guessed it, video were, I would say very limited, and also data storage was limited too. They used magnetic tape and film. Off topic, go look for Hasselblad cameras. They were the first to fly and to be on the moon, to take all those super famous photographs. So Hasselblad is a company which is still working and selling amazing cameras nowadays, and go look at it. And finally, we can talk about sample handling. The only science that they could do was here back on Earth. So they had to grab and bring back something like almost 400 kilograms of rock and regolith. So grabbing the samples, putting it on the lunar escaping model, and then fly it back together with the astronauts, and then science was made by scientists here on a planet. Well, nowadays we also thanks to the evolution of the instruments we mentioned in the first episode of this conversation, and the analysis technique, and also the amazingly wide range of communication possibility, they can also perform in situ analysis of the samples that they find. So we mentioned the communication possibilities. Everything is under an evolution, a huge evolution of the technology. Well, think about that instruments like IRIS, which is the spectrometers, the S of the word stays for spectrometers, can map the surface and the chemistry, so the composition of the solids and also the volatiles in the atmosphere is not the correct word, but above the ground, in real time. Think about, a good analogy is a Geiger counter. Think about all these movies where scientists and experts go around with a Geiger counter detecting the radioactive particles. It's not the scientific correct word, but it gives you an idea. And this is flickering and making noises when radioactivity is found. Well, a real-time analysis of this is go and make like 100 times this thing, you will have real-time video. Think about a thermal camera imagery, something very similar, but with a spectrometer. This gives you an scientific, not correct idea, but a general idea of the amount of data that can be processed thanks to technology in real time and made in real time available to the users, who are the astronauts, and to the scientists. Well, nothing of this was available 60 years ago, while in-field mineralogical mapping relied only on the geological competencies of astronauts. Also, LMAPS, which is the second instrument we mentioned in the first episode, is a sort of radar, I would say, not 100% correctly under the scientific point of view, which can probe several meters, like 40 meters underground, and find rock composition and also water ice, for example. This for sure was not possible during the Apollo era, where only sampling and also very, very weak profilation of the seismic profiles was possible. And also under the navigation point of view, lunar transfer vehicles, which are being designed nowadays and will be evolved further in the future, will benefit for sure from artificial intelligence and advanced navigation techniques. Well, some of them are already available here on our planet, and some others will be available in the future also on the moon, and technologies that still we don't have nowadays. While, if you're a pilot, you probably know the difference between IFR and VFR, so instrumental or visual flight rules and navigation. So, VFR was the only word back 60 years ago. So, you guessed it. And also, this relative ease of operating allows longer duration missions. You perceive fatigue, you get tired farther in time, so you can perform your activity longer. So longer can be also the extracurricular activities and also the missions, and also the reuse of not only resources, but also the materials and the vehicles and all the objects that you bring over there for the first time can be reused and sustain operations multiple times. During the Apollo era, the rovers were single use and also were abandoned on the surface, And yes, so if you have any doubt about this kind of exploration, you can get your telescope and directly look over there on the surface and find some samples that have been left behind. And yeah, you can take this like your homework for today, because this was the last episode of this very mini series. And please let me know in the comment what you think, you think we should talk next time. And yeah, tell me what you think. And maybe you still don't know that we are debunking some popular myths, things that people think have been invented and designed for space, but actually have a real terrestrial origin. So they're very interesting. Tell me if you want us to talk more about this. We already started talking about the Space Fakes series. Go and look on our website and also in the newsletter of the SpaceInfo.club.